All right. Swayman signs 8.5. First of all, I'm really shocked that there was this much drama because I think the offer was like a low ball, 6.5 from Boston. He signs 8.5 by 8. Big deal because that's going to affect Igor Shesterkin. He is the next guy up. Now, Ilya Sorokin signed, I believe, 8.5. Connor Hellebuyck is up there as well. Vasilevsky is up there. There have been a lot of goaltenders that are the world class that have signed very similar contracts to Swayman. Now, there was drama. I think a lot of that was from, what was going down. Swayman had said some things in the latest Amazon Prime documentary from the last negotiation, some of their meetings that was like hot mic moments for that series. Obviously, there's the Cam Neely situation with the 64 million reasons why he'd want to play there. A lot of drama. I think the media also hyped it up. I think they're trying to be a little bit like the NFL, NBA, but the reality is, Steve, I think if this is NFL, NBA, like Swayman would have been out of it. Like Swayman would have been gone, right? Like NFL, I'm a Raider guy, painfully so, but like Devontae didn't waste no time. When he wanted out of Green Bay, he was gone. Like that, and it was a bombshell. It was a Woj bomb. You don't really have that in the NHL, and this goes to prove again that NHL players aren't really like that. Swayman stays. I don't know if you want to talk about Sway, but I know we got to talk about our guy in Igor Shesterkin. So, what are your thoughts on that situation? But more importantly, we're going to swing this obviously in the direction of the Rangers anyway.
Yeah, really quick, I want to ask you, Devonte Adams. You could give me a quick yes or no. He going or he staying?
Yeah, he's got to go. I think this team again has to rebuild, so he's got.
Good. All right. Swayman. Now listen, there was no need for Shesterkin to sign a contract before Swayman got his done, and this just goes to show you that Shesterkin is probably going to become one of, if not the highest paid goalie in the NHL, passing Carey Price's deal when it comes down to it. Swayman, listen, we all can agree he deserves it. He's great. You watched him in the playoffs last year, especially down coming down at the end of the wire in the Bruins in making the postseason and especially in the first and second round. But Swayman was literally the backbone of that team. I mean, even when the offense died down, the defense failed him. Swayman was there for the next level. But we could all agree Swayman is no Igor. I mean, Igor. I mean, if we could take Igor right now for that 12 million the reports of what he's been seeking, I'm signing that right now because listen,
Okay.
you really can't you really can't compare Igor and Swayman on the same level right now. But in terms of uh, Igor, I think he's in a good position. Whether it's with the Rangers or if not painfully, but we all know this is a move. I mean, it shouldn't be up for a debate. This is a move the Rangers have to make. They are going to make it. I'm not concerned. The money's going to be there. If you want to tag on a little bit more after that deal, yes, you can. But I'm not really concerned, Chives. I mean, Igor is going to be a Ranger. If anyone out there is on the fence, he's going to be a Ranger. So, what's your thought?
Yeah. Now here's where the problem is. Like we talked about free agency versus unrestricted free agent, right? Um, Sorokin 66 mil, Swayman 66 mil, Vasi 76, and Bob 70. That was 10 by 7. Vasi's 9.5. Igor wants like 13. They're saying like Brooks reported that he wants that record breaker. He wants to reset this market that right now is kind of being set. So I see both sides of the aisle. You said you'd sign it. I think there is reason to contemplate like, do we sink this much money into the goaltender? Because I think in New York, Henrik Lundqvist, my favorite New York Ranger ever, lived up to that billing. Did not win a championship, but listen, he's an all timer. He's a rock star. Brought it every night. Shesterkin does too. When they signed Henrik Lundqvist, put the team in a similar situation. Now, obviously, the contracts to Girardi and Stahl in subsequent off seasons really affected their cap flexibility. But the reality is that is important today. Um, I think Igor Shesterkin is the only thing that after this season makes you a contender from here on out. If you don't sign him, I don't think players like him come around the block often, if ever, right? Like you went from Henrik Lundqvist to Igor Shesterkin seamlessly. So I think to keep it simple, I think right now I would sign no matter what. I would try your best to keep him. Now, again, like these goaltenders, you could say on par. I think Vasilevsky, the 2 cup rings, is a negotiation point for the Rangers. Like a goaltender that has 2 cup rings is in the MVP conversation is not making as much as 12 and a half, 13. He's making 9 and a half. But I think if you look at Swayman and Sorokin, Sorokin's been in that Vezina conversation. Uh, Swayman specifically has played a small sample size compared to Shesterkin, and like you said, played really well against Florida. His only legitimate playoff series. Now there is argument who should start Olmark or Swayman. The clear answer in New York is Shesterkin, even with how quick played at 38 years old. So I think you try and sign him, and I think the Rangers' future depends on it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I don't disagree with anything you just said there. I listen. I'm not gonna knock Swayman right now. I think he's an outstanding goalie. I think he's
Yeah,
terrific. He's arguably one of the best in the league. But I don't know. I'm not questioning the contract because yeah, the Bruins had to keep him. But you look at this and you look at the situation that they have, and you say, all right, this is his first season as the true number one goalie right now, and I look at the past few seasons, and yeah, he split it the last few years with Olmark. But let's go back to that 22-23 season, Chives. When they won the President's Trophy, that really wasn't Swayman. That was really all Olmark that season. So again,
you
this
won a
isn't a
Vezina.
knock at Swayman. Swayman's got to go out there and he's got to prove it now. So again, from a Rangers perspective, Shosturkin's going to be in the pipes no matter what on Wednesday night. So I'm not really worried. I think when it comes to the money, and again, you mentioned Hank. You look at what Hank has meant to this franchise. We're very reliant on our goaltenders. Whether you want to look at last year's postseason, you want to go back 2 years, 3 years, every single year, the Rangers, at a certain point, even in the season two, had to rely on their goaltender. And you could go and say that the Rangers will go as far. I said this last year. The Rangers will go as far as their goaltender will take them. So when it comes to Igor, gotta pay him, man. I'm not concerned about the money. You gotta dish it out. And also, you mentioned this on last week's episode. We do have contracts coming off the books. Not we have some this year, but within the next 2-3 years, we do have some money that's coming off the books. And again, the expectation is there. We talked about this. Jury's got his hand on that nuke button if this season doesn't pan out. So again, in terms of the money, I'm not worried. Igor, of course, man. He's the backbone of this team. He ain't going nowhere. Trust me on that.
Listen, Steve, you mentioned that goaltending has buoyed this club, but you said 3 years. I think you go back 80 years, and that's what's helped this team win or stay competitive. And the 2 eras they weren't competitive, they did not have a name in between the pipes. That was the 80s when they lose to the Islanders consistently. Granted, they did make conference final runs. And in the early 2000s, before Henrik Lundqvist, they bounced around a little bit. So when you look at the history books, that's part of it too. This is a goalie town.